Hi, my name's James Wantz. I'm currently acting as the Public Relations Manager for District 7, and in that capacity, I want to tell people about Pathways, because Pathways is the new educational program that Toastmasters has rolled out for us, and it takes the place of the legacy system. Those of you who have been Toastmasters for some time know about the legacy educational system. That's where we had two tracks. We had the competent communicator track and the competent leadership track. And you could choose between the two of those, or you could do them in tandem. Well, with Pathways, we now have 10 individual levels. That's 5 times more than we had before. 10 complete new levels. Within the 10 levels, we have the opportunity of picking an entirely personal choice, a personal direction for how you want to deal with communication and leadership in your own life. Now, for myself, I picked as my first path presentation mastery, because I want to get better at giving presentations and being, more front and center, feeling more confident about the presentations that I give. I went into that with kind of this sense of the uncharted territory, because with Pathways, I didn't know what was ahead. I've been doing the legacy program for many years because I've been a Toastmaster since 2008. But what I really liked about Pathways was I didn't know what was ahead of me. I knew some of the ideas that were coming up, the idea of creating a podcast or writing a blog or going to a networking event. Those things were aired out there as projects within Pathways, and that intrigued me because none of that stuff was resident within the educational program that existed when I became a member. So when Pathways rolled out, I dove in and decided that I was going to find out what was there. And the entire process, I am finding these golden nuggets of just really interesting content, one of which I want to talk about. Inside of level 2, within the presentation mastery path, there's a video you get to watch about body movement. It's how to get more familiar with how you move on stage and be more comfortable. And I started watching this video, and it was kind of like watching Dame Judi Dench, the renowned Shakespearean actress, try to do community theater and act bad. The lady that was doing the presentation in the video, it was clear that she was a fantastic speaker. You could see that just in the way she held herself. And she went up and she showed all of the baubles and the foibles and the uncertainty that many presenters feel the first time they go up to speak. Well, then she presented a little bit more confident, and by the end of the video, I could see her for the presenter that I knew she was already. It was such an enjoyable video that I went back and watched the video again and again just because I enjoyed the production quality of it. And that's just one of the nuggets that I'm finding inside of Pathways. And at this point, I figured that if I was going to challenge myself a little bit further with Toastmasters and with Pathways, I was going to sign up for a second path that would challenge me. Now, personally, I don't much like networking events. I am much more comfortable in front of people giving presentations, giving lectures, giving a speech, than I am mingling. The idea of a cocktail party, it kind of gives me hives. So I figured it was time to put my money where my mouth was and sign up for a path that deals primarily with networking. So I signed up for the strategic relationships path. Now, I'm not really far into it yet because I'm still overcoming that fear and that anxiety of just trying to think about an educating experience with a networking event. But I know that with the information I've found so far in the path that I've been working on, that they're going to have a very well laid out project for me to do, and it walks me through the steps. I appreciate the material they give me, and I'm looking forward to challenging myself in that regard. But I challenge you, if you're interested at all in Toastmasters or even Pathways, go to toastmasters.org. There, right on the banner page, is a little button that says Pathways. You click on that, you can get more information about the program. And if you're a member, you can click right there to log into your Basecamp, which is the online portal for all of the educational curriculum that resides inside of Pathways. And once you're in Basecamp, look around. Take a look at the navigator, take a look at the other information that's there. And if you haven't signed up for a path yet, go ahead and do that. Because with 10 paths, you know there's going to be something there that you haven't seen before. And I encourage everybody, make yourself a better communicator and a better leader. Give pathways a try.
Welcome back. I'm Beth Genley, your host. My home club is Toastmasters for Speaking Professionals, and I'm very pleased this evening to welcome James Wantz, who's back again to talk about the Pathways program. Welcome to our show, James.
Hi, welcome.
So James, I understand that you've been working with Pathways for a while, and you've run into some interesting new developments that are different from the legacy program that make you really enthusiastic about Pathways. Tell us a story.
Absolutely. What I refer to them as is those nuggets, kind of those golden nuggets, some really fun things that I'm finding inside of Pathways that I really am enjoying. The first one that I found inside of the first level. The first level is made up of the icebreaker and then a couple of speeches back to back and then a research project. But the piece that I really liked about that first level is that the second speech is you give a speech, you get an evaluation, and then you do the same speech again. And it had to have been probably over a year that I was in Toastmasters before I realized I could give the same speech again. My mentor said, well, why don't you bring that speech back and work on it? But I never even thought about that. So I'm really happy that Toastmasters has put that concept right into the first level. And then the second level, there's this wonderful piece in the presentation mastery path where you analyze your communication style. And I took their online test and it went through and asked me a series of questions, and I realized that I'm very task-oriented, I'm very analytical, and I'm a very job-centered kind of person. Well, I was having a conversation with a lady that I'm working on a project with, and she was talking about how we needed to speak to other people, about how they were relating to the goals, and she wasn't sure about the vision. And I kept asking her, well, we have this deadline. We need to get something out. We have this deadline. What do you want me to do? And I realized about midway through the call that we were speaking two entirely different sets of language. And it was pretty much a problem. And I figured that out after doing that communication assessment. And once I'd figured that out, it was a lot better at that point. I mean, those are just two of the things that I'm finding that I enjoy.
That's beautiful. So Toastmasters is so much about leadership, and leadership through communication and leadership through excellent speaking skills. So it sounds like they've combined it more so that you were able to exercise some leadership in your interaction with that woman based on what you'd learned.
Yeah, they have. They've taken the presentation and the leadership and kind of melded them together. Because there are 10 different paths, and you choose kind of which way you want to go through Toastmasters. I mean, it used to be under Legacy that you had the communication track or you had the leadership track. But now you've got 10 completely different choices. You can go for innovative planning or strategic relationships or effective coaching or presentation mastery, and every single one of those is different. And I love this idea of picking one that's best going to fit exactly what you want to do with your life, as opposed to having to find something inside of two set tracks. The freedom, I think, is what I'm really enjoying.
That's beautiful. So you can choose to challenge yourself in an area that you don't know much about, or you can choose to get much more richness and depth in something that you... Okay, tell me why you're laughing.
Well, I'm laughing because the first path that I chose was presentation mastery, and I'm comfortable with giving presentations. So I figured if I was going to challenge myself, I had to go with something that was challenging. Well, I hate networking events. I absolutely hate them. I break out in hives. So I figured I'd better sign up for the strategic relationships path, which is about networking, if in fact I'm going to improve at all in that area. And it's just, I'm still resistant to the idea, but I know that this is an area that I need to face. And I can feel, because I can feel that anxiety, agitation already. Networking just does that to me. I just, but it's good.
Knowing that you are such an accomplished speaker and presenter, there's a part of me that thinks, well, now you get to feel what some other Toastmasters feel about learning to present. So there we are.
I know.
So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really glad you came. And if someone would like to learn more about Toastmasters or get more information about the Pathways program, you can go to toastmasters.org. You can look up a club there. You can learn more about Pathways, or you can dig deeper into Pathways through toastmasters.org. Thank you again.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
incredible confidence,
Confidence,
Great listening skills.
poise,
great leadership skills,
Leadership skills.
the ability to speak in public,
Strength.
A captive audience.
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
Sales skills.
Opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
wonderful way to meet people.
networking.
Strength. It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job. I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.
Hi, I'm James Wantz. I'm the current Public Relations Manager for District 7, but I'm also a member of 3 Toastmasters clubs. I've been involved in the district since about 2008, so I'm pretty familiar with the legacy educational system that we have. So when Pathways rolled out, I decided I wanted to dive in, because Pathways, well, it's brand new. It's something I hadn't encountered before. Now, many of us who have been in Toastmasters for a while, we know about the 2 tracks, the communications track and the leadership track, the competent communicator manual, the competent leadership manual, and they both lead forward and meet in the distinguished Toastmasters. But with Pathways, there were 10 different individual paths that I could choose from. 10, that's 5 times as many as the 2 tracks that I had previously. I'd heard a little bit about some of the projects that were inside of these tracks, and I immediately got excited when the ambassador at our spring conference started talking about all of these potential projects that we could do, electives like creating a podcast or writing a compelling blog or attending a networking event. Oh, okay, I didn't really like that one. I hate networking. Ugh. But the fact that I could do these projects, which hadn't been a part of Toastmasters, at least in my experience up to that point, kind of got me fired up for the new program. So when Pathways came out, I dove in. Now, I have a history of, theater. You may not be able to tell. I enjoy presentations, so I decided my first path was going to be presentation mastery, because I was going to dive into something new with something familiar. And so I went into Pathways for the very first time, looked at the project, started working through presentation mastery, and found a bunch of really cool nuggets, these golden nuggets embedded in the projects as I'm going. As I said, I've been a member since 2008, but I had yet to encounter within Toastmasters the idea that you could do a speech and then do the speech over again. I mean, I'd encountered it, yeah, other people had mentioned it, but now within Pathways, that's one of the first projects you do. You do a speech, you get evaluation on that speech, you then incorporate the evaluation into the speech, and you give the same speech again. I mean, it's mind-blowing. Because up until this point, at least a year for me in Toastmasters, I thought that once I gave a speech, it was gone. I couldn't do that speech again. Now, this comes from my theater background, because you do a performance and it's over. So I thought it was the same. You do a speech and it's over. But that's not really what happens. I mean, within our own professional lives and presentations and our work days, oftentimes I've encountered people that give presentations over and over and over and over. So now that has become an integral part of Pathways. And that's That's just one of those nuggets that I found. As I'm working through presentation mastery, I started to get the sneaking suspicion that I was cheating myself. I was cheating myself because I wasn't really challenging myself in all the areas that I could challenge myself. Yeah, networking. I hate it. But you know, there is a specific path that deals with networking, strategic relationships. I decided that if I was going to be a pathways evangelist and talk about how good it was for helping people conquer communication and leadership in their own life, I needed to do something that was uncomfortable for me. So I signed up for the strategic relationships. And yes, I am going to attend networking events. I am going to find out about those strange things they call networking events. And then, as per the project in Pathways, I'm going to go back to my home club and report how scared I was at the time. Because stepping up in front of people to give a presentation doesn't bother me. I enjoy it. I know I'm weird in that way. But if you put me in a room where I have to network with people, it's just amazing. I challenge you. Figure out what you want to work on in your life, and then go to Toastmasters.org, look into Pathways, start figuring out one of those 10 individual paths that would challenge you. Or if you want, start with something familiar. But the key part of this whole thing is start into the Pathways journey, because you don't know what you're going to find, and I think you're going to really like it in the process. Toastmasters.org.
Hi, welcome back. Good to be with you again. My name is Bill Mayer from New Horizons Toastmasters Club. For a few minutes this evening, we're going to talk to James Wantz, who is a member of the club, as well as in a district position. We're going to be talking a little bit about Pathways, which is what Toastmasters International has formulated for people to excel in their teaching and leadership skills, similar to what we've done in the past. James, thank you for joining me this evening, and I hope we can talk a little bit about Pathways.
Absolutely.
I saw you do a presentation just a couple of days ago, and I really appreciated a couple of the pictures that you had to describe the legacy, which was train tracks. We basically had a communications track and a leadership track, and that's very familiar for those of us who've been in Toastmasters for even a little while. But now Toastmasters is providing Pathways, and you provided a picture of a ski area.
Actually, it was Mount Everest.
Mount Everest.
Now, there probably are people skiing on Mount Everest, but the reason I chose the image of Mount Everest is because there are many different ways to get to the summit. And in fact, that image had over 10 different paths that were shown to get to the summit. And I figured it was the best visual metaphor for Pathways. Because in the new Pathways, the new educational program, there are 10 individual paths that any member can choose one of those paths and proceed all the way through the 5 different levels.
Before we get to talking about the individual paths, I want to see if there's similarities between the legacy and the new Pathways. And I've dived into Pathways a little bit. When you start with the legacy system, you have the competent communicator, and then you get to the advanced manuals. And there's a lot of options with the advanced manuals. They've done away with, from what I understand, the competent communicator, and they've kind of folded that into all of the different pathways. Would that be an accurate description?
That is true. That is true. The Pathways program takes all of the pieces of the legacy educational program and folds them into the 10 individual paths, as well as liberally sprinkles in brand new content that we haven't seen before. So the icebreaker speech, which everybody is familiar with from the CC manual being the first project that they do, is still the first project in every single path. Because Toastmasters believes, and I also do too, that each time you do your icebreaker speech, you're learning something new about yourself. Whether it's your presentation, whether it's your, I don't know, how you're received maybe. So that the first speech is the same, and then people are going to recognize researching your topic, doing evaluations. All of those pieces are pulled in from the legacy program, and are resident within Pathways.
How does one get started navigating Pathways?
That is one of the biggest changes for Toastmasters so far, because the legacy program was designed around manuals, actual manuals that we would use and take to our clubs. Pathways is designed as a completely interactive online environment. It lives on Toastmasters International website, so you can go to it on your tablet, your computer, or your laptop for that matter. Once you log in, you choose the Pathways and the Pathways educational program, and it takes you to what is called Basecamp, which is every single member's beginning point with their path and how they interact with an online curriculum. It's set up very much like the online curriculums that you have with colleges. Where people go in, choose projects, have assignments, finish those projects, and then have them checked off within Basecamp. The difference is that the entire interaction is in an online environment as opposed to printed material. Now, I'm a bit of a throwback. I want hard copy. And there is an option within the projects. You can print out the entire manual in a PDF format, and that's what I do.
Okay.
I download the PDF, I print it out, I take the hard copy with me to my club meeting so that I've got my paper, I've got my evaluations, I know exactly what's going on. Because I like the tangible feel of the paper in that regard.
I agree with you on that, and it does have a sense of security with that. Another aspect of the legacy system that I think there has some similarities with the Pathways is I do 10 speeches and I get another level of leadership or communication. Here I'm working for badges. Is it still 10 speeches kind of a thing?
It's actually much faster. Because with the legacy system, you'd have to do those 10 speeches before you'd be a competent communicator. With Pathways, you'd progress through 5 levels in each of the individual paths, and once you've completed a level, you receive the badge as a completion for that level. Well, level 1, which is the same for all paths, has 4 speeches and 1 evaluator role. So you give 4 speeches, you're serving as evaluator, and you've completed level 1 of your path. Level 2 then starts to take on unique characteristics of the individual path, and you start having specific projects that are related to which path you choose.
Great. Our time is just about up, and I thank you very much for your time in helping us begin to understand a larger picture of Pathways. And I have started. I'm looking forward to it. I think it really is a good adjustment for Toastmasters as we begin the 21st century in a new dimension to Toastmasters International. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you have any information that you need regarding Toastmasters or Pathways, go to toastmastersinternational.com, look for a Toastmasters Club, check out Pathways, find out Basecamp, and we hope to see you along your journey. Thank you very much for joining us.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
Incredible confidence,
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 Great listening skills.
poise,
great leadership skills.
leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength,
A captive audience.
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters,
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a better, a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
a great place to fail your way to success.
wonderful way to meet people,
Networking,
strength.
It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job.
I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
thank you Toastmasters for everything.